Hi, this is Jeff the Big Hairy Dog, and this is a webinar on V9 physical inventory. I'm not sure if we have anybody joining us today. Can't tell if anybody's joined. It doesn't look like anyone has joined, but we can run through it real quick and record a nice recording for everyone and see how that goes, right? All right, so let's get rocking and rolling, right? Okay, V9 physical inventory. I got a little machine. I just set up a few items in here, so I just threw some quantities in, so it's pretty simple, clean, very clean. Default screens, everything's default, right? So we go to inventory, merchandise inventory. We should see a few items in here that I just threw in. So, and we got some various quantities. So we're in pretty good shape. Now, I don't have a scanner hooked up to this, so I'm actually going to do some importing, and we can take a look at that and see what goes on with that. Anyway, it's not a bad thing. Every little trick I can show you probably is good. So what I'm going to do real quick to facilitate scanning, and if you have a scanner, by the way, and you're doing a physical inventory, I strongly recommend that you have your scanner set up in the days preceding the inventory and have them tested, and then get a tech to make sure they work before the day of inventory. I cannot stress that enough, okay? So that being said, we're not going to be using scanners right now because that should be handled. All right, so I'm going to drag this over next to ALU, and I'm going to just highlight these using the shift right arrow and down arrow keys so that I can just grab these here and export them. So I'm going to right click and export them into Notepad. So if you were to scan some items using your phone, and there are apps you can get to download that scan and email you a file that could be delimited. This one's tab delimited, so if I put my cursor here on a right arrow, you see it hops all the way over. In other words, that's a tab character, right? So I am going to do a quick replace here, and I'm going to replace that tab with a comma, so it's a CSV file, right? So replace all. Okay, so now we have a simple CSV file with an ALU that's 6 digits followed by a comma followed by a quantity of some kind. Right now, let's throw in the middle, let's throw in a rogue item that will be our example of a bad scan. Okay, so let's go save. So you'll never probably do this, but my point would be if you had a phone and you were scanning items with your phone and emailing it to yourself, you could configure it in the same way in Excel and save it as a CSV, right? And you could do what I'm about to do, right? So anyway, just gives you more power if you're going to be counting, and you can actually count on more than one device, right? So we're going to save this, and we're going to save this. No, we're not going to save it there. We're going to save as, I don't know where that is. It's a temp file somewhere, right? So we're going to save this on the desktop as zone 1 and save. And let's go file, save as, and let's call this one zone 2. It's good to have more than one file, right, to test with when you get to the counting phase. So throw 3 or so of those up there, and we'll have plenty to play with when we get to that point. All right. So close this. Let's go quickly take a look at options, system preferences. And in system preferences, under local, not global, so collapse global and open up local. And if you get onto merchandise, you'll find a PI tool section, okay? And in PI tool, we can go to options here. I am a big proponent of using zones. Zones are very powerful. This is a webinar on how to take a physical, how the tool works inside. But that being said, if you don't have your prep work done, if you don't have a map drawn, zones identified to be scanned, labeled, numbered, little post-it notes with the number on the zone, upper left corner, if you aren't organized and everything's tagged, taking physical inventory is a waste of time and money. Just going to say that up front, right? So strongly recommend you be really well set together. So I'm turning on zones. Simple physical would be just a list and you're just putting quantities in, but there's no controls. Zones are a very powerful tool, lets you control them. We have a filter turned on for start, which that's fine. We can leave that on. It's no big deal. Stripping leading zeros, I do not turn that on. If I import stuff and they have leading zeros, it's probably because they need leading zeros. If it's in an ALU, it's an alphanumeric field, you need them. If you're importing and you have leading spaces, trim those. Yeah, absolutely trim those. No big deal, right? That's easy. Now let's click on the import map here. Now I'm gonna click in here and make a new one. I'm gonna call it ALU 6 because it's a 6-digit ALU. So starting on character 1, as you saw when I created the file, ending on character 6, right, with a length of, yes, that's right, 6. And there is count start. So the 7th character after the ALU is the comma. So starting on character 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, going up to character 12 for a potential length of 5, which is infinity. I doubt anybody has more than 99,999 of anything. And these are ALUs. So we're going to check that off. It's not a UPC, right? It's not an old V8 item number. There's no checksum. Okay, so say we have a map created that we can take that fake file and upload it like we were using a scanner, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and you can build a map for any scenario. So if you had scanned barcodes and sent them over from your phone in a file, you could then open them in Excel. You'd have to sort them by size and build a map for each one. If you had a UPC of this 12, you'd have a 12. If a UPC 12 map and you'd have an ALU 6 map, you follow, you'd have to separate them, sort them in Excel and separate them. I'm going to click update, and our text could help you with that part too. If it had the data and you needed to import it, you could call it textport. Physical inventory calls are a high priority call. They are not the highest. The highest would be a down call. If you're down and you can't make sales, that's number 1. But number 2 is physical inventory. So you're going to get good service if you call in and you have a physical inventory problem. We're going to be right on it. Okay, so I guess we go do the physical inventory, right? So I have, if I can find it here someplace, a little set of notes I usually work by, and I'm going to pull those up right now, and that'll give us an outline to go by, shall we say. So in physical inventory, there are 4 steps, okay? And so this is my little cheat sheet, my little notes. And we could probably even blow this up, make it easier for people to see it, I guess, if we wanted to be nice, right? Font. Yeah, let's not go crazy, but let's get it, where we can see what we're doing, right? All right, that's better, right? So again, goes without saying, but cleaned up, tagged, zones created, map created, labels put on the field, so we know how we're attacking this count, right? Every area that could have merchandise is accounted for and has a zone. Even your office, and it may have had some merchandise in there and now that's gone and there's nothing to count there. I don't care. Service desk, whatever, right? Everything has to have everything that could be counted needs to be labeled and counted. So the 4 steps here are start, count, discrepancies, and update. That's it. So we start, and that freezes the inventory. That's not actually correct. It copies the inventory into the count sheet, and the count sheet is in fact frozen. So in that sense, yes, the starting quantities are frozen, but the on-hand itself is not frozen. If you make a sale, it's going to change the quantity, right? So it's very important that you control the count. So what does that mean, Jeff? Well, that means if you sell something before you count it, you could get in trouble. So in my little example down here, you can see that I have got 10 in inventory, and I hit the start button. And when I hit the start button, it copies the on hand over here over to the start column. Of course, I just hit the start button, so I haven't counted nothing. So I'm short everything. Okay, so I go out and I count 8. Okay, that means I'm short 2, right? So when I update that, it's going to say the new quantity the new quantity, excuse me, the new quantity here is going to equal the current quantity plus the difference. So it's not using the 8, it's actually using the -2. It's going to take this number and add to that this number. So what if I count it? I have 8, I count it, and I sell 5. So then does the math still work? Well, if I had 8 and I sold 5, I'd have 3. I'm pretty sure -2 and 5 is 3. So I'm going to say, yes, it works. Once you count the item, you can sell the heck out of it. Doesn't matter. What if you count it? What if you sell it? Excuse me. What if you sell it before you count it? Then you're looking at this here, right? I can't count 8 because there's 1 gone. So I count 7. That gives me a discrepancy of 3 with an on hand of 9 because I sold 1. Pretty sure 9 and -3 do not equal 7. So what's happening there is that the sale took it out of inventory, and the physical inventory is about to take it out of inventory also. You have to count everything that's there when you hit the start button. So have a plan. Like, for instance, I come in early, I scan down the floor, I'm on the last row, I open up, somebody wants to buy something from the last row. I say, hey, can I scan that before you take it up? Yeah, thanks, beep. Okay, I got it. I got it covered. I scanned everything before it's sold, right? Or I close early, I'm open, and I start scanning the stock room down, and I get all these scan files in my scanner, and I can't send them in yet because I haven't hit the start button. So at 6 o'clock, I close the store, throw the deadbolt, hit the start button, upload all the data from the stock room, and start counting the floor, right? Either way it works. Have a plan. Okay, let's actually go hit the start button, right? Okay, so merchandise inventory, or you could just be going right to inventory if you have an inventory button. Let's discard these weird messages. And in inventory, I'm looking at inventory. We should have on the sidebar menu a physical inventory button. We click physical inventory, and it says stores. Zones is grayed out because I can't have a zone if I don't have a physical inventory, right? Zones are inside the inventory, so you got to start one before you can make a zone, right? Pretty sure. All right, so let's go stores, and it says, hey, do you want to start one? Again, this is a brand new install. I did not even name my store, so I have 2 stores, default 0 and default 1. It doesn't really matter which one you start. You can start them both. You can start one. It wouldn't matter at all. You cannot start them, though, until you give them a name. So, you know, a good name would be PI, whatever, store 1, you know, Feb 2026 or something, right? I mean, you should have a good naming convention. Absolutely should have a good naming convention, because it's very possible and very likely that you're going to want to make like a training physical inventory or a test one. I mean, before you do physical inventory, I strongly recommend that you like watch one of these videos and you go through a mock one. Now, don't finish it, don't update it, don't do the last step, but get right up to the end, get through all the paces, get a feel for it, drive that car, right? So we're going to call it training, and I'm going to hit create, and it's going to open a physical. Now it's opening a filter, and I could go get fields and I could filter by things, but I'm not going to. This is a full physical, and I only have like, I don't know, 18 items anyway. But you could filter it to a department. That would be a cycle inventory, right? Where you do one department this week, another department that week, so on and so forth all year, or 3/4 of the year probably. People don't do inventory all year. They usually leave the fourth quarter to make sales. So we're just going to click OK with a blank filter, which will start the inventory and create a count sheet. So there's our count sheet. Not very impressive. So let's go and look at the count sheet. So we're going to go into the PI inventory on the sidebar menu here, this button, and it's going to show us our count sheet. Now, again, this is a default install, so all my little tweaks aren't in it. But if I were to go in here, I'm pretty sure that I could find the on-hand quantity. So I'm going to double click the on-hand quantity and click apply so that we can see it. Okay, nice. You know what? Let's kill this one. Let's start the other one. I didn't realize that. Let's inactivate this one. And this is what you do. If you did a training one and you wanted to go through the paces, you just inactivate it, then you'd start a new one, right? When you're ready to actually do the real one. We're going to do store 0 this time, and we're going to call that one training and hit create and click OK. And this time, hopefully, if I'm lucky, I'll have my quantities, right? There's my quantity. So I had nothing in the other one because I just created a few items and threw some quantities in one of the inventories, and it happened to be 0, and I did not even know that. So this is a good clean start, right? So we've got our on hands over here, and they got copied over to there. And of course, we didn't count anything because we just hit start like 12 seconds ago, right? So we're short everything, which is correct, by the way. That is 100% on point. And I like to see the on hand. It makes me feel good just because it's the way I was sort of indoctrinated into the PI process, right? All right, so now I want to go count some stuff. So again, strongly recommend having a map, right? So I used to be a store manager and I used to be an operations manager, and I was an operations manager forever. And I had to draw maps like this, and they were not a lot nicer than this, but basically as a sketch, right? And then you identify fixtures, wall, slat wall, whatever, HRAC, four ways, down slants, end caps, whatever, right? And you give them numbers. You say this is section 1, this is section 2. Now they could be better than that. The zone name field is quite large. So, if I'm doing multiple stores, I would probably say like store 1, department men's, 101 or whatever section. I would have a nice naming convention for my zones. It would make sense, right? Anyway, then you would probably have what I used to do is I used to have a map, and then I had a list, and I could check them off as they're getting counted, and I know what I keep track of. Somebody's got to run the process. Somebody's got to be like on top of this whole thing, right? Okay, enough preaching. So we're going to back out of here, and we're going to go over to physical inventory zones, and we're going to click new. Now, as soon as you hit the start button and people in the field start counting, the person who's running the inventory, the person sitting at the top here, the pyramid, right, should start inputting and creating zones, right? So I'm going to say it's store 0, and this is, store 0, men's 101. Okay. And then I could say make another new one, and this is store 0, men's 102, right? I mean, I can do whatever I want for a naming convention. It really doesn't matter, but have one, right? Does not need to include the store number necessarily. It is nice to have a department. I'm not going to lie, that is super nice. If you say go double check that, and they can see the zone designation, kind of tells them right where to go. Nothing wrong with that, right? So now you should have your zones created and ready to go by the time your first person walks up with a scanner. If not, create that zone or find the zone in the list. So we're highlighting the zone in the list, right? On the sidebar menu, we would go into scanned. Of course, we're not going to see anything. On the sidebar menu there inside the zone, it says add counts. So I'm going to click add counts. And here I could say I'm going to manually type these in. I'm going to import them. That's what we're going to do. Or I could click on portable device. I'm not configured for one, and it'll just hang up and lock us up. But if you were set up with a Foundry Logic scanning device, it would then start flashing the Foundry Logic menu, and it would let you pick one of the zones you uploaded from the portable device, right? So I'm going to say we're going to import, and that we are going to use this map right here that we just created. And we're going to go find that file, which should be on the desktop, right? Now, I don't see it, but then the file type is set to DAT or data file. So I'm going to change it to text or all. Either one would work. And there is our zone file that I created earlier to simulate uploading a file, right? So we're going to click open that, and we're going to say import that. And it says, hey, one of these things did not work. Well, I put that one in there, right, to make sure we got a scan error, right? Because when you're out there scanning with a scanner, what if the scanner picks up a rogue UPC code? I mean, you look like you were on the tag, but you weren't on the tag, but you didn't notice because you didn't look at the number that got scanned into your scanner. You just kept going, right? So you got a bad scan. Okay, so what does that mean? So we accept the items that it could accept. Now, if we come over here to the right side, we can see the scanned, right? Let's back up a layer. So there's our scans, right? There's our bad scan. On the sidebar menu, you see where it says errors here, right? So in errors, we can see the bad scan. Now, again, these are default screens, and in default screens, they never have the juicy good fields, right? So I'm going to right click the top. I'm going to go to interface. I'm going to go to Page Manager. In Page Manager, it only works if you right-click one of the column headers, not the gray, not the white, the column header. Okay. In here, if it's above the line, it's in. If it's below the line, it's out. I actually would like to see ALU. That is actually a very cool field, and I like to see that. And I like the scan quantity probably be first. Makes me feel good. And then down here, I want to see the import ID. That's what I want to see. Yeah. All right. So you can see, I'm going to move this over. You can see that this import ID here matches with this ALU next to it, right? That this import ID is non-existent because it doesn't know how to find that item, which is true, by the way. So why is this item and this item here? Like, they're not bad. They appear to be good, aren't they? They're good. They are good. Those are the bracketing items, right? So that item was scanned, and again, we can't see our ALUs here because this is a default installation. And so we're going to grab ALU, bring it back up here so we can see what we're looking at. So that was between these two, you follow? So if you know the order of scanning, if you scan left to right, top to bottom, and you know the order of scanning, you should know roughly where this bad scan is. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, so if we're over here, we can try and fix this. I don't have a lot of luck with fixing it mostly. So on the top, I'm going to right-click the menu. If I right-click the menu and go to Menu Designer, there should be in here in the R's, if I'm not mistaken here, a Resolve button. So I'm going to double-click that and send it over to the right-hand side. And I'm going to click OK. And so if I have a bad scan, I first print this out. I can print this out. We have a BHD design that will print this out. So we're going to preview that. There's nothing really. Oh, yeah, I know what that is. Nice. Right. So you see here, it's printing those two out. It's got them in the wrong order on the top, but you know that 9999999 item is between these two, right? It's near those two there, right? So you could print it out this way. A lot of people have told me, even though I designed a very cool design, a lot of people tell me that they would prefer to just select all, right-click, select all, right-click, export to Excel, or I don't have Excel on this VM, so I'm going to click Notepad and drop it out and then print that and take that out to the field. That works fine too. I don't care which way. Doesn't matter, as long as you get what you need, right? So in here, if you've got the ALU in the screen, right, it gives you that number you're looking for. So when you find the item, one of two things happens. It's got a tag or it don't. That's pretty much it. If it does not have a tag and you find it, then it leaves this zone and it goes to the trouble area. And you have a table set up in the middle of the room that is your trouble area, and items that are not tagged go to the trouble area. And while people are scanning future zones and counting, somebody else is retagging the troubled items, right? So we can scan those last, right? So unless it's got a tag on it that we can correct it, then it's going to go to the trouble area. Now let's say it has a tag, and it's whatever. It's another one of these, right? I could click Resolve and just chuck that whole screen, like get rid of that, get out of there, go back over to scanned. I could say I want to add counts, and I could say here I want to put in, one of these. So I just added one more of those, and this screen is terrible. I would want to see, and this is the problem with the default screens, right? All right, so there's my ALU. There's my new quantity, right? Because it added to the existing quantity. So can I even see that? Yeah, so in the background, you see that that's the wrong one, but here's the right one, right? So right above this box, everybody sees a 58 there in the scanned quantity, but you see a 59 now down here, right? So I added one of those to this, and I click close, and it updates that record there, doesn't it? I could have added an item that wasn't in the count here. It wouldn't have mattered, right? So, so I have fixed that zone. Next, I would go to print, and I would print the BHD V9 zone sheet. I would print this out, and then I would set this aside somewhere and have somebody double check or randomly double check. So somebody should double check or sample your counts to make sure that they are accurate and good. Not required, but I highly recommend. I don't think we can double count the whole store. I think we need to be very careful about what we double check. But if I got a rounder or leather jackets, I'm going to probably check the whole rounder. If I've got a little tub of chapstick up by point of sale, I'm probably not going to check that one at all. If I'm off by 3 tubes of chapstick, I think I can live with it. So I would strongly recommend that you double check those, right? Now, once you've double checked it and you think that one is accurate, then you need to merge this zone. So on the sidebar menu, I click merge zone. When I click merge zone, it says you're about to merge a zone. When I continue, I say, yeah, let's do it. And it checks off that that's merged. So here I can see that I've uploaded one. I have not uploaded the other two, and that one has been double checked, right? So if you can picture, like, instead of 3 of these, like 30 or 300 zones, right, in a bigger operation, it's really helpful to see which ones have been scanned and which ones have been double checked on this sort of on-screen checklist, right? So again, let's continue on with step 2. Real quick here, we'll go to this one here. We'll go to scanned. We'll say add counts. I'll then go to my import, and we will change this to 2. And say import. It says, hey, I got an error, right? We close that, and we go take a look at the errors, which I thought you could get the errors right here, but apparently you can't. So I'm going to back out one and go to errors. It shows me the errors. I print those out. I go find the item. I resolve those. And then either I leave that item in the trouble area, or I go back into scanned add counts and I manually key in what I need to add, right? And then I print that out, have somebody check some of it, tell me if it looks good. If it looks good, I'm going to merge that zone in, check that one off, and so on and so forth, right? So you hit here, you go to add counts. Probably you're going to go to portable device, and you're going to then upload the thing using your scanner, which the scanner should be working and tested before the day of inventory. There's nothing worse than having like 20 people standing around twiddling their thumbs because you didn't check the scanner. I know, tell you how I really feel about it, right? All right, so really annoying. All right, so we're gonna say let's do 3 here, right? We'll do zone 3. We'll say import that. It's got an error also. Yeah, no surprise there. And we then go to our errors on the sidebar menu. We go find that. We print that out. We export it, whatever. We print it. We go find that thing. We resolve it. That clears the error out. You cannot merge. If it's got errors, it will not let you merge it. It's got to be a clean zone in order for it to be merged. So you can delete the items. You got to make sure you know what that item was and get that thing over in the trouble area. Or you found the item and you know the actual item number because you just scanned the wrong tag and you're just going to add that one in, right? So then once you've double checked that, again, I'm going to merge this zone. And once I have accounted for all zones, so my map has 148 zones, I have 148 zones. They're all scanned, they're all merged. Step 2 done, right? That's what's going on there. Okay. Now, in my little thing here, we start, we go there, we hit the start button, we check off the store, hit start, go to inventory zones, make a new zone, scan, add counts, portable scanner, probably, right? Do the count sheet. We could do a count sheet. We could go look at that too. We'll go take a look at that in a second. But the old scanners, like the old scanners, you could have them. I'm thinking about like the PT scanners, the old PTs, and I think the Janims. You had to clear them. So if you're using the new Zebra scanners from Foundry Logic, you get to name each zone, and they're all separate, and you don't have to worry about clearing them so much, right? So if it's a smart scanner, if it's got a database in it, then you won't have to clear it. But if it's an old scanner and you don't clear it, you just counted that first zone twice, right? If you upload zone 1, you don't clear it, you add zone 2 on top and upload zone 2 with zone 1, you just counted zone 1 twice. So the old ones you got to clear. And so I strongly recommend if you have a scanner that you test those, and try those out and know how to use those There's different kinds of scanners out there, right? Make sure you know how to use your scanner before the day of inventory, just in case you didn't get that the first 6 times, right? Right, print out your good scans, double check them, and merge the zone, right? So what is this business of a count sheet, right? Okay, so I'm pretty good with a doc designer. I've made a few doc designs over the years. So I could, if I wanted to go to filtered view, I could filter for, a section of inventory, right? And I could say, okay, and get that. Of course, they all say the word T. This is the only item I have in inventory. And once I have filtered to the section that I want, I could go to print. And if I have the BHD, like doc designs, which you can get, if you call up any of my techs, could put those in. They're on our T drive. They're on our shared drive. You could then select all listed records. You will forget that, by the way. Everybody does. Then they get one item. So all listed records, preview, and you'll get a count sheet. That's what that is. It's a count sheet, right? So then you could take this out and count them. So I have had clients that do a physical and they scan. They have scanners, but like the one I'm thinking of has they sold like paddle outdoor gear, and they sold kayaks, and some of those kayaks were, $1,000, $5,000, and there's a limited number of large kayaks in the store, right? So they would drop a count sheet because they wanted their people that are at the high end of their organization to have a list of what should be there, walk around and visually inspect that they are there, right? Like nobody's going to scan the kayaks. We're going to go actually count those and know that they are there, right? Now this here could be exported to Excel. If we had Excel on here, we don't have Excel, but we could export this to Excel or Notepad. We can open this in Excel, by the way. Then you could actually count on a laptop in the Excel spreadsheet, save it as a CSV and import it, right? So all right, so now back to this little sheet here. There's more going on in this sheet than I've let on, right? So what does this line mean? Why is there a line between steps 2 and 3? Well, it's because once you have counted it, right? Once you've got to this part here, you can sell things without affecting the outcome, right? That's what that means. So if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you just finished counting the store and you're ready to move on to evaluating your discrepancies, but it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to tell you, you're going to have diminishing returns. You're not going to be effective at 2 o'clock in the morning. I know that as I get older, you need to go home and get some sleep, and it's not going to affect the outcome. Now, the next day is your golden opportunity. If you go a week, now you got to figure out how many you sold, how many you received. You got to back figure the number to see if you're right, right? But tomorrow, I'm going to say 98% of the items are going to still be intact with their original counts, right? So your opportunity is to come in fresh the next morning and handle the discrepancies. So how do we handle the discrepancies? Oh, excellent question. All right, so we back out of zones, right? We go back to merchandise, inventory, physical inventory, stores, right? So we're going to go into physical inventory stores. And in physical inventory stores on the sidebar, we have the PI inventory, the whole thing. And then we have the discrepancies. We have a scan too, but the discrepancies is everything that's either over or under. Now, I took the on hands, I exported it into a file and I uploaded it 3 times. So I suspect we're going to be a little over in most cases, right? So I had 14, I scanned 42. I'm over by 28. No surprise. That's exactly double what the quantity is. And that makes the 3 pieces, right? So yeah, we're a little over because of the way I exported those quantities, right? And just I kept uploading them like a madman. Now, if we were to then print this out, which we could print this out, and I have different versions. That one subtotals by department. This one subtotals by vendor. Very popular. Like a ladies' dress shop would do it by vendor. They'd do it by designer. They would not do it by department, but most people do it by department. I'm not going to lie that departments are very popular, right? So this one here would take each department, right? This is men's tops tees. It would give us a total of that. Then we'd go to the next department and do the same thing, and the next department do the same thing, and then at the bottom it would give you your totals at the bottom, right? So Not sure why my extended cost difference is not working. Um, it usually does work. But I'm not going to troubleshoot that on a webinar. That'd be weird. So, um, and I do have, let me see here. I was playing around with earlier, and for some reason my inventory was not working real well. The print was hanging, but then it fired off. So there's that's a real inventory, by the way. This is real data. There's 1,509 pages in this version. So there's a real discrepancy report, right? With real departments and real subtotals, right? So then you would attack this, you would print this up and piece it out to various people, right? And they would then have to go through and prioritize the items that you want to check. Like, and again, be smart. You're certainly going to double check the kayaks if they're off, or the leather jackets. If you're short three, keychains, I'm not sure that we're going to go crazy on that, right? So if you could check everything, great. But if you've got, like here, we've got at least 40 items per page, at least, and 1,509 pages. Now, I didn't count anything. Everything's in discrepancy on this real inventory. So yeah, there's a lot of discrepancies. In real life, if you had that many SKUs, and that's a real inventory, so somebody does have that many SKUs, you would maybe worst case scenario, I would think 10% of those might be in discrepancy, right? And if you had 150 pages, that's still a lot. So usually it's around 35 pages on what I see usually. I mean, nobody has perfect inventory control, but everybody's kind of on top of inventory control, honestly, right? Unless you just completely let it go. You're going to have a few items that are off, but most of them are not going to be off, right? The majority should be accurate. All right, so if we go out and check these and we want to fix them, well, how do we fix them, right? So let's say we don't want to save that and we want to fix them. So I could say, wow, all right, scan quantity is 141. I didn't count 141. I counted 140. If I do this, it's going to ask me which zone to correct, which you could do, okay? So I could adjust that to 46, right? And it says, okay. I don't know, it's a little bit mathy for me. So I'm not as fond of that. So let's say that I wanted to take some away from, let's say that this 42 here, we scanned 42, but 12 of those were actually this 100009. I overcounted this one, I undercounted this one, okay? And let's say I have a lot of those examples. There's a nice trick that I prefer to do, and that is to back out of here and go back to physical inventory zones and just make a new zone. So in my new zone, we're going to call it correct one or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. If you're having multiple people give you corrections, you might name them for each person so you know who did what, right? Then we go over here to scanned and we say, okay, add counts. And we say, okay, in manual entry mode, I want to take this 100002 and I want to take back 12 of those, right? So there's my negative 12 right there. See that? And I want to take the other one, 100009, and I want to add the 12, right? So if you have people that have gone out and done the legwork and found out where you're over, where you're short, you could just sit back here and just key the corrections into one screen. Now, if I have 5 people that go out and get corrections, I'm probably going to take each of their correction sheets where they made their notes. I'm going to run a 10 key on the minus and the plus values. I'm going to come up with a number. And then I'm going to key it in with their name on the top. I'm going to click close, and I'm going to print that sucker out, and I'm going to see if it ties out to what I already have a 10 key of. You know what I mean? Like, it's all about double checks, right? So your total counts up here should match whatever. If you add 5 and you take away 3 and you add 7 and you take away 42, there's going to be a total on that, right? And it should match this right here. You should be able to print that out. Mine's 0 because I added 12 and I took 12, right? So once you've validated that you did not screw up the input, you would back up one layer and you would say, okay, merge that one, right? And it goes and makes those corrections for us, right? So if we go back around to physical inventory and we go into stores and discrepancy, that one's still going to be in discrepancy, but I took 42 down to 30, right? And whatever it was up to 87 here, right? So that's the best way I've found. It leaves a really clean audit trail. If you screw up, you can go back and see where you screwed up. I'm a big fan of that, not going to lie. Okay, so back to our little list here, right? So once we've found the discrepancies and fixed everything as well as we can, we're ready for the last step here, right? The last piece was just to accept the numbers, right? So to accept the numbers, we would back up so that we could see we're looking down at the PI, right? And then we would come over to the sidebar menu. Let's get this little window out of the way here. And on the sidebar menu, it would say update PI. And it pops open like that. Now, the most important things here is probably to pick the right reason code. So in here, we should have a reason in here already, and we don't. I don't know if I can add one manually or not. Yeah. So I usually use physical. It could be whatever you want it to be. But I mean, I strongly recommend you have a reason code for the physical inventory process to then be able to filter on. So for instance, when I update this, it's going to make adjustments to inventory and it's going to use that reason code. Now let's say that after inventory, I find something that didn't get counted and I want to bring it back so it'll wash out some of my shrink. Well, then I would adjust it back in with a manual adjustment, but the same reason code. Does that make sense? Right. See, so if we go down here, we can pick which store. There's only one, right? So we've got to pick the store. We've got to pick the reason. Now, it should be on all items. We would never change it to quantity only. Everybody gets why, right? Hopefully. So if we have two in inventory and we don't count any, does it have a quantity? No, it does not. So if we say only items that have a quantity, the one that had started with two does not go to zero, does it? And if we didn't count it, it's because we don't have it, right? So if we do all items and you didn't count it, it will be zero. Now it should default it to all inventory. It should already be there. Don't change it, right? And then click the update button. So if I click the update button, it's going to go out and update those items. And now if I back out of here and I back out one more spot and I go to merchandise adjustments, we should see a physical inventory adjustment. Of course, I only had like 18 SKUs or whatever, right? So I mean, definitely not going to need more than one document for 18 SKUs. They hold 900, by the way. So if you had 3,000 items being adjusted, you'd have to have 3.25, right? Memos. You'd need 3.25 of these. So it would create 4 memos, right? So if I go to form view, we can see the original starting quantity, the adjusting amount, and then we can add the difference. Again, these are default screens, so the difference is not currently showing, but that's totally possible to add, right? So that's the amount of adjustments right there. There's your I don't know why our price and costs are all zero. Oh, I didn't put a price and cost on it. That'd be why. That's why my adjusted difference wasn't working. I was putting these in so fast, I forgot to put a price and cost on them. My regular machine was lagging seriously, and I did not want to do that webinar on it. So I had to go create some items real quick in this virtual environment. All right, so that puts the physical to rest. Now the physical itself is there. So if I wanted to go back to merchandise inventory, I could go into physical inventory, store archives, right? And there it is, right? And you see over on the sidebar menu, I could unarchive this, which would put it back in play. You could then make some more adjustments and re-update, right? Which would make a bunch. So the original update made adjustment memos, and then the unarchive would make opposite adjustment memos, putting out all the quantities back where they were. Then the final update would yet again make more adjustments, right? You just have a lot of adjustment memos if you did that. But I've had situations where we've definitely found at the end of physical that somebody forgot to count an entire room, or something massive. So we had to unarchive it, go count that section, and then get those merged in and ready to go, and then re-update, right? Not a big deal. That's why it's there. Now, and I did not fully install, reports is installed here, but there's nothing in it yet. So I am going to drag over my other report window to the real imports. Will the real reports environment please step forward? Right, so in reports, if you've installed the Big Hairy Dog reports, then you have a custom folder. And in there, you'll have a bunch of physical inventory. So BHD, adjustments, PI, departments, DCS by department, right? So if we go in here and say, run this, I guess I will roll the dice here and go undefined. But we're going to say physical, reason code physical. Now we're going to say clear all. I don't know what, this is real data, and I don't know what reason code they really used, right? So I'm going to say source physical inventory tool, and we're going to say okay, and see what that gets, right? Of course, hopefully it doesn't take a month to get this, but I have got physical inventory reports that are by department ranked, and by department ranked top 10 for the company, and by department ranked top 10 for each store. So you can evaluate your discrepancies. And I used to think these were stupid when I was an operations manager. I'm totally guilty. But honestly, one year leaded crystal came up in my top 10, and it turned out people were stealing Waterford crystals by putting them into a generic box of like 6 of them and buying them for $10, $45 a pop. So yeah, I mean, this is very good information to sit here and see which department hit me the worst, right? So right. So this has got little subtotals by so here's your departments ranked. Here's your top 10 departments, right? Um, per store or just overall, right? If we run that one, then we say undefined, and we say source only physical inventory tool. It'll show you the top 10 departments, right? And it is important for you to know where your shrink's happening. I mean, let's face it, 60, 70% of shrink is mistakes. 30 or so percent, 35, 40 is theft. You can't stop the theft. I was a store manager on Marshall. We had a bunch of earring spinners up front. They were right up by the cashiers. That didn't stop people from stealing them, right? So, you know, that's weird. We got weird reason codes in here. Huh. See, it really, in real life, you'd just be having physical. You wouldn't have all this other. This report's set to break on reason code, and they put some weird reason codes in this real data. So it's kind of going crazy on me because I don't know what those reason codes mean because I wasn't there. I didn't do those physicals, right? Those are real physicals. All right, fine. No, I'm going to pass it, right? Oh man, I got lucky on that one, didn't I? See if that's it. I don't know if that was it all caps? I forget. But now I have this by ranked by vendor as well. or alphabetical by vendor. So that's what it would normally look like, right? And we could even, be nice to you guys and zoom that in a little bit, right? So it would list out, and then and this is real, right? This is a real data from a real environment, several years old, by the way. This is pretty old data. Um, but and this is also mixing, like I didn't put a date range on this. So if they took, 10 physicals in this, whatever period of time it was, it's mixing all those together, right? It's just, the numbers are really rather large, right? To lose 7 million is a lot, right? Unless you're, I don't know, $300 million store. Even then it's a bit much. So, so anyway, I strongly recommend, here's the vendor ones, then there's by description one, there's by item. So if you had a department that you really wanted to dig into, you could run one of these lower level reports, right? And dig into the data. That's really what that's about, right? So the only thing left that I haven't talked about, we should talk about briefly, is the multi-store environment. So if you're polling and you have multiple stores, okay, in options, in system preferences, back down there under local physical inventory, merchandise, physical inventory, there is this switch right here, which is worded extremely poorly, not gonna lie. It says update inventory counts on remote station. So it sounds like that if you check this off, you can update it at the remote, right? That's not what it means. It means I'm giving up my right to update to somebody who is not physically at this location that is in fact remote. So if you wanted the remote to not have the ability to update their own physical inventory at the remote and only at the remote, you would check this off. Okay. And by checking this off, they would then have to send you their account, and you at the main would have to review it and accept it, or just accept it, your choice, right? But the point is that they could not finish it. So if we go back now into inventory, and we go back to physical inventory, we say stores, we say start. So we're going to start that one again. We'll just go training to create, and we don't care. And so there's our physical. Now, if I go over here and I say update, wait a second, I can't say update. You see how it says prepare PI. Now it's the same screen. It looks like you're updating, right? But you're not. If it says prepare PI, it's going to zip the count and pull it back to the main. Then the main will have to go into the tool after polling, and they will see the count, and the main can then choose to update it or not. So if you're really into control, and you're at the main office, and the main office is hundreds of miles away from the store, but you want to review it before they update it, at the remote store, go in and turn on that switch, right? The update at a remote location. And then they will not have the ability to actually finalize their physical. They'll have to send it to you, and then you'll have to do it. And then once you update it, the quantity changes will obviously all pull back to them. So pros and cons. I think that I am generally in favor of just getting the job done. I'm in favor of being able to update the remote at the remote store. So the upside is that they can finish the job, they can put it to rest, they can know that it's done, they can go all in and finish it, and you feel good about that, right? The downside, if there is a downside, is only that the count sheet only resides at the remote. So you'll never see the count sheet, and if you want to review the count sheet at the main, you cannot. That being said, in today's day and age, I would expect everybody to have remote access to any and all of their PCs. If there's a problem at the store and you're 30 miles away, we're not going to get in the car and drive. We're going to hop on the PC and go to, Team Viewer, Log Me In, Splashtop, any of those remote softwares, and there's a plethora of them. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many remote softwares now, and there's a lot of them at a very good, reasonable price. Splashtop's very good right now. Anyway, you should be able to just hop into their PC and look at anything you want anytime. So if you want to go look at an archived PI, if you're like, why is that one -2? Well, what was it last time we counted? Well, go look at the count sheet. Well, then dial into the store and go look at it, right? So that's the only disadvantage I see to doing that. Um, However, if you turn on that switch and they pull you the count, you will have the count sheet at the main. You'll have all count sheets at the main, and you can go look at them at the main. But then you got to make sure you're there at 11 o'clock at night, or you do it first thing in the morning, that you update it because they're all waiting for the results. All right. I think that's about it on physical inventory. So I'm going to say thanks for watching this. Hopefully it helps for you guys out in the field. And again, make sure your scanners, since we don't cover scanners here because there's so many different scanners, make sure that your scanners are checked out and working at least a week before you're going to do physical inventory, and that you know how to use them, right? Because that's very important. If you're going to go rogue and you're going to go get an app, like I have an app called Scanner that I downloaded on my iPhone that uses the camera to scan, and it actually works really well, surprisingly well, right? So, and then if you buy it, you get all kinds of cool analytics and features. But if you don't buy it, all you can do is scan and email, and that's all I want to do. I want to scan a zone, email it in, and configure it and import it. That's all I want to do. So for me, it's basically free. So that being said, I'm going to say thanks and enjoy. And hopefully this helps you guys. And I'm here if you need me. Give me a call at the Big Hairy Dog, 916-368-1070. 916-368-1070 is the Big Hairy Dog tech support number. And you can get a hold of us 24/7. Although that after hour stuff is kind of pricey. So anyway, I'm going to tell you to have a good one. See you next time. Bye.